Hello and welcome back to the Doctor Who Marathon. I'm your host McEdam, and today we're going to be talking about the bonus adventure story, Return of the Krotons, featuring, well, the Krotons. It was written and directed by Nicholas Briggs, the voice commonly known as the voice of the Daleks. This is a bonus adventure, a series of audio dramas which the only thing that has is that they have a little bit of extra part of them. This was a part of a return trilogy in which each of the 80s Doctor would be fighting a classic monster from the 60s. Sylvester McCoy's Doctor was fighting the Daleks, which I find really strange, in Return of the Daleks. Peter Davison's one was Return to the Web Planet, and Colin Baker's one is Return of the Krotons, featuring the Krotons, which originally appeared in the second Doctor TV appearance entitled The Krotons, which I've talked about. So if you're interested in hearing my opinions on that, you can watch my vlog on that particular episode. It's probably one of my favourite vlogs that I've done for the second Doctor era, so I highly recommend tracking that down if you're interested. However, the important thing to note is that the story itself and the Krotons failed to live up to the demand that they were supposed to apply. For you see, Robert Holmes created the Krotons' explicit plan to replace the Daleks as due to a quarrel between Terry Nation and the BBC. The BBC was worried that they would lose the rights for the Daleks, so they asked their writers to try and come up with a new monster which could replace them. However, the Krotons was one of the failed attempts at this, and in fact that would be their only televised appearance. In fact, this is also their only audio appearance. They're just not popular villains, and really the only selling point of this is to see the Krotons return. These unpopular, very like a cult villain coming back. So that's kind of interesting, I suppose. This in the story of the canon features, of course, Charlie Pollard, who we've talked about in the Condemned and the Red House videos. But this story was actually written by Nicholas Briggs to lead up to another story. Well, I say lead up, really only the ending to this story. So the story kind of feels like a, in terms of setting up the characters, a prequel for a story called The Rain Cloud Man. Now, it's important to note that because I don't have The Rain Cloud Man. I am not going to talk about it, sadly, so there you go. Now, before I get into the story, this is the official Big Finish CD cover, which is, I like the pinky glow-ups of it. What I find really funny is that it has the Sixth Doctor in his original costume, if you can see there. They don't actually state it in the story, so it's up to the viewer, really, but I like to think he's wearing his original costume, because I've stated I'm not a huge fan of the blue costume. And like always, I make my own DVD cover. Well, I say I made my own. I printed my own. I found this on DeviantArt, I believe. So that's the cover if anyone's interested. That's the spine. How cool is that? And of course, the back. Very nice. So this story sees the Doctor and Charlie land on what they believe is a moon colony as they find themselves opening the TARDIS door to a big, huge generator which is making a ton of noise. Oppression to keep the gravity, to keep the oxygen and the whole way of life on this satellite going. And they get bumped into this man whilst they're looking around these corridors and these tunnels, and they meet this guy who originally thinks that they were they came up through one of the space stations because they find a viewing deck and they see a bunch of space stations in the sky. However, the guy becomes very suspicious of the Doctor and Charlie after they have no idea about these spacecrafts, and they stated that they've just arrived, which is strange because from his point of view, humanity has been, Earth has been destroyed, and all the humans, all the living humans anyway, that he knows of, was taken onto these colony ships to find a new home, a new planet, or wait until the solar flares stop happening on the sun of Earth. And the Doctor quickly works out that this is around about the same time in terms of the space chronology. It takes place around about the same time, if maybe a little bit after Destination Nerva Beaker was spun around, taking this story in terms of its chronology through the universe, around about the same time as the Ark in Space, the Fourth Doctor's second adventure. And it's only just hit me now. The Fourth Doctor's second adventure and the Krotons, which are the second Doctor villains. I wonder if that was just a coincidence. What I really like about this story, compared to ones I've listened to, Charlie and the Doctor get a lot of scenes together and they work off each other phenomenally well. A lot of people might be a bit disappointed that in this story and in the Red House, that the idea that the Doctor is suspicious of Charlie doesn't actually play a part in the story. The Doctor kind of treats her just like as if she's just an adventurer with them. It does get mentioned from time to time. For example, when they arrive, the Doctor asks her, does this jog her memory? And she's like, what are you on about? Remember you lost your memory? Oh right, yeah, yes. No, this isn't jogging my memory. I'll just have to keep travelling with you. So she's basically making excuses to try and keep with the Doctor. And what I really like about Charlie as a companion is that she, like the Doctor, is thrilled and enthralled with adventures. Charlie is basically what if the Doctor was a companion, in that kind of way that they both thrive on adventures. In fact, the nickname she gives herself is the Edwardian Adventurer, which is technically incorrect. She's Georgian, but what can you do? As we look around this colony, we get introduced to the leader of this colony, this ruthless man. What's his name? Rag Cobben, and he is played by the one and only Philip Maddock, a very highly praised recurring Doctor Who actor, most known for playing Solomon in Brains of Morbius and the War Lord, or the War Chief of the War God, whatever his name is, in the War Games. But a few people might not even don't know that he was actually played a character in the original Krotons storyline. And so this, despite them playing a different character, which is really strange, it is nice for him that that it's connecting to one of his more early stories. I think it might be his first story. Can't remember. And so one of his scientists goes up to him and discovers that they've discovered a machine. One of the Krotons learning from machines. It's not really like a twist. It's, despite them not like stating it, it's kind of obvious when you know who the Krotons are. And so the scientist actually tried it on earlier, and he said he felt pleased and he felt happy. And so he brought this to the leader to be like, this machine, it does amazing things. And originally the captain, the leader, is dismissive of this. However, they learned that they have this power source. It's called K1. It's a crystal form, and they're trying their best to mine it and get as much energy out of it. And what the scientist has learned is that when somebody uses this machine, all of the K1 nearby gets turned into a blobby liquid form, releasing a huge amount of energy which they can use. And so Philip Malek's character puts on the machine, and basically, because he's like a weak-willed, but he's a very intelligent person, the machine feeds him a lot of problems, and he gets really happy and feels pleased about it. And he basically starts refusing to take the machine off. And also as well, the scientist is using the K1 in liquid form to power the cities and the colonies. However, they soon get distracted by a call stating that there's two prisoners, the Doctor and Charlie, and Malek originally thinks that this is that these are like some sort of investigators. So he basically puts them in a particular prison right at the bottom of this so-called moon. Now, the story goes along at a grim place, I find. We quickly get learned to new situations. The Doctor gets captured. He learns a lot about this colony, this world, the whole Nava connection. We then learn about this boss character and this machine and stuff, and then this whole idea with the Doctor getting in prison. So the first half of the story goes around really quick, and there's not much thickness in the plot. It's kind of weak. There's not a lot of like character development or thing. But because it goes along in such a grim place, it is entertaining. It's a lot of fun setting this up, and you really get like intrigued. It's like, what's the Krotons got to do with this? What's going on? And so the Doctor goes down and Charlie gets locked down in a prison where they meet a few other rebels. I think there was 3 of them, if I remember correctly, but I could be wrong. There was an old woman, a young man, and a middle-aged man. That sounds like the start of a joke, that does. And the story kind of really wants you to connect with these characters, as throughout the rest of the story, these become our main characters, as the Doctor learns that Malek is actually, Philip Malek's character actually thinks that they're a threat, and so he tries to get them out of the way by placing them in a particular area where there's explosives to try and mine the place. So the bomb goes off and rubble falls on top of them, but luckily all party members, apart from one, sort of, we'll get to him, survive, and they get split up. Only for a little bit. It's not like Red House or The Condemned. The Doctor and Charlie do get split up, but it's only really like, I mean, this story is only 60 minutes long, and I'd say if this was a 4-parter, only episode 3 would be them separating, and that's how it works out, I believe, in the spacing of the story. And so the Doctor gets caught up with the old woman. Charlie befriends the young man, and they're trying to look for the middle-aged man. But these characters are just, I don't know, something just doesn't work about them. The old lady comes off a bit too cliched and a bit too cartoonish. It's all clear, right, divorce, and the young man, is just a young man, and they do talk a bit about themselves. They do have personalities, especially when they're talking about their leader, and that originally the old lady's like, oh, don't listen to him, he just wants any excuse to hate him. And the young man's like, well, why not? He's done nothing for us, and he's literally put us out here to die just so we can be forgotten. But there's not a lot here to really grip on, and they're kind of, I don't want to say forgettable, because that's just an overused term in terms of talking about one's opinion. But they do struggle getting out their personality traits out to the viewing audience. So like I said, the Doctor and Charlie are split for a bit, and what they've noticed is that they were saved from all the rubble coming down thanks to a buried spacecraft. And so the Doctor, from his point of view, can find the entrance, whilst Charlie and the young man, they find their room in a bunch of K1s, and because Philip Maddox's character is using the machine, all the K1 becomes a liquid, and they find that the older man, he was actually buried like in it, and they saved him out before it turns completely liquid. And the Doctor states that it's kind of familiar. Don't touch it. This liquid could be fatal. It might not be dangerous in its crystal form, but now it could be something incredibly dangerous. And so the Doctor and the old lady, they go up to the spacecraft where they discover a bunch of giant robot mech suits and a machine, a learning machine. The Doctor tries it on, trying to remember, because he says this all looks familiar. And when his brain starts reacting as some sort of psychic entity is trying to communicate with him, does it click? And he remembers these are Krotons. And so yeah, this is when the Krotons finally get activated, as we hear them talk in that really ridiculous, silly, but kind of entertaining voice. It is a warning. I am a Kroton. You will obey us, low brains. That kind of silly voice. And don't get me wrong, they are the voice and the imagery really helps, and it really works in terms of getting this impression of the Krotons out. But they are kind of bland villains in this story. They could have been replaced with any villains. There's nothing really that strikes this as a story which needed the Krotons. And it did kind of feel like Nicholas Briggs had this sort of story in the works, but he didn't know what to make the villains. He knew he wanted it to make like a classic villain. And so he was like, yeah, I may as well bring back the Krotons and put them on here. Which is kind of disappointing, because I would love they do a lot of new things with them. For example, the Doctor explains that they are sentient crystals. I can't remember if that was part of part of their species back in the Krotons. I think back then it's explained that they are just robots. I can't remember. That was a while ago. It's just occurred to me. And the Doctor works out that all the K1s, all of this crystal, are Krotons. And the liquid is there, like liquid form, and that what they're going to try and do is basically they're like a parasite, and they go into colonize these humans to take all of their high brains, what they call intelligent people, to capture them. It's also here that from Charlie's point of view, they're trying to escape from the liquid, and they find a way into the ship. However, the older man falls back into the lake, and it was too late. He isn't saved. He's got killed by the plasma ooze of the Krotons, which does kind of level threat, because we have a death finally. But I think the problem with this story is that the whole setup, the setting up of the story, goes really quick, which I think for a short story, one little bonus adventure, like, hey, this is a little cheap story, listen to it and just enjoy yourself for a little bit. I think that really works. Just, something really quick, something, it's like just eating a bunch of crisps, like it does its job, but it's nothing that's supposed to be taken massively seriously. But when the Krotons get involved, the story takes a massive breaks in terms of its speeding of the story. And I think when the Krotons get involved, the story does kind of slow down, as the majority of it then is just characters trying to get into place. The Krotons later capture Charlie and the young man. And one of the Krotons comes up to the Doctor and states that he is a high brain, but we've also been in contact with a creature who was once a low brain, but their mind has been opened up and been expanded. And the Doctor's like, yes, who are you on about? Only for a Kroton to lead Charlie into the room. And so they're basically getting set up to start the Kroton invasion, allowing their intelligent brains to feed off them, because they feed off intelligence, of people's brains waves. I do find it really disappointing how they never take advantage of the fact that they feed off brain waves, because it's not like a Kroton who gets more brain waves adds difference to one's at least. It's not like one's more intelligent than the other. But yeah, it's really strange like that. And the Doctor and Charlie get a guard on a Kroton, but they notice something different with this one. And Charlie is like, hold on, did it? No, it couldn't have. The Doctor's like, what? You'd think I'm crazy, but I'm sure there's an eye in. Yeah, look, it just blinked. And it's revealed that the old man, the man who fell into the K1 ooze, the Kroton ooze, somehow survived and was stated in a perfect symmetry with the Kroton host, becoming a fusion creature. And so this thing is conflicted, and the Doctor, Charlie, the old lady who's now in this scene, and the young man, they tried talking to him, to try to reason with him. It's like, come on, you are the human aspect of you, not the robot Kroton, the crystal Kroton. In that way, it's a lot like a Cyberman, like a dysfunctioning Cyberman. But here it actually helps give the Krotons just a little bit more something to do. Not really the Krotons as a race, but this particular one we can connect, because it's somebody who we have been following. And yes, he didn't have that much of a character and that much of a sense of being for us audience. It does help us connect with this particular Kroton. And basically, because the human and Kroton's elements are mixed in a way that they're so perfectly simulated with one another, but obviously they're two completely different races, they're two sentient minds fusing to be one. This Kroton basically goes mad and tries to kill every Kroton. And the Doctor and Charlie, whose minds have been plugged into the Kroton learning machine, gets information that it's going to blow up the atmosphere machine, the engine which the Doctor and Charlie arrived nearby, the machine that was making a loud noise at the start. And so, and basically it goes a bit nuts and it doesn't know what to do. And so the Doctor escapes, whilst Charlie goes there and helps the Doctor through communication, through a map. However, whilst the Doctor's in the tunnels, other Krotons go up to get caught up with Charlie and the gang. Charlie and the gang. And so she can't really help the Doctor. And we get a really interesting scene in terms of their in terms of their character. Again, this might tie into stuff about Charlie that I'm not too familiar with, in which she basically states to the Doctor, you know that the Krotons can't survive this. They can't be allowed to continue. Doctor, let him destroy everybody and kill everybody, including me. You just go back to the TARDIS and live your life. Save yourself. And the Doctor's like, no, what are you on about? And Charlie's like, don't worry. I don't think it was even meant to be. And the Doctor's like, what are you on about meant to be? What are you on about? So we get a nice little sad moment between them two. And it also emphasises their relationship in this their saga. But it's only a small scene for the moment. And it is a really great scene. I really like that moment. However, it does lead into the actual conclusion, which I found extremely disappointing. It works thematically what it is, and it works very well. I like what the Krotons are in the plot synopsis and stuff, but I don't think it works in terms of pacing a story and viewers' enjoyment, as the Doctor basically states, hold on, I've got another idea, and then we don't hear the Doctor then until right at the end of the story. And as Charlie, the old lady and the young man are talking to one another, they start giggling, and the old lady makes a joke about how with the older man in the Kroton thing, he's got all that ooze going up his nose, all that bubbly or beer going up his nose, and they call him Bubble Nose, and they start giggling and laughing, and suddenly all the Krotons go mad as their heads explode, which just makes our main characters laugh even more. And then Charlie passes out, and she gets reawakened into the TARDIS. And the Doctor basically states what happened. Basically, he got to the atmosphere pressure thing. What he did is he put high pressure with low oxygen, which I can't remember the term, but it basically affects people's. It's a natural thing. What's it called? I can't remember what it's called. The effect that like a lack of oxygen to a human brain makes them act all silly and goofy and starts having a huge amount of euphoria. That kind of, you know what I'm on about. And what that did is it weakened all the humans nearby, all their brain waves, which now the Krotons can't feed off. So all of their heads get destroyed, and that's how they die. I found it pretty weak that we didn't get to see the Doctor try to do with this plan. We see it from Charlie's point of view, which does kind of work and go in, what the hell's going on? But it's still, I don't know, it just doesn't really work, and it goes so abruptly. Like literally we go from the Krotons basically ruling, controlling everything, from them all getting their heads explode, to the Charlie already in the TARDIS, and the Doctor explaining everything. And all of that happens within a 2-minute gap. But there you go. And so the Doctor basically explains that the next trip is going to be a little cafe on Earth. And he says like a little thing, it's like, don't worry, it wasn't meant to, maybe it was, so it was meant to be after all. Charlie's like, what? But do you remember, before you thought you were going to die, you said it wasn't meant to be? Care to explain? And Charlie's like, oh yeah, I explained better during food, and that's our cliffhanger leading into the Rain Cloud Man, which I will not be talking about because I don't own it. So there you go, that's Return of the Krotons. Overall, it's a pretty weak story. The fact that they resurrected the Krotons after so many years felt very like, nah, let's just instead of having like, right, we have these villains who had the potential of recurring villains, let's do something with them and let the audience see what these creatures can really be. Let them be, let's put them back into the memories of the mind eye and hopefully let our audience connect with the Krotons as villains again. But instead it's more like, we don't know what, we had to put a 60s villain in here, let's just put the Krotons. But there's some really great moments with the Sixth Doctor and Charlie. I like their enthusiasm into the plot as they try to learn what's going on, and they're basically detectives working out conspiracy between the leader and all this ooze stuff at the bottom. There's some good ideas here, and some of the characters are enjoyable if a bit one note. So I would consider it's an okay story, 5 out of 10 if I ever did ratings like that. And there you go, that's Return of the Krotons. So join me next time where we will conclude the first season of Gallifrey as Leela and Romana find themselves on an Edwardian train and they meet the sister of a particular Doctor companion. So join me next time for A Blind Eye. And I'll see you next time on the Doctor Who Marathon. Ta-da!